when you feel like giving up. When you thinking about giving up, don't. When it look like you ain't gonna make, keep going. When they tell you you can't, come on, man, who are they? When they tell you you're not gonna make it, don't believe them, man. Don't believe them. You got to be relentless. The thing you have to keep in mind before you give up is that if you give up, the guarantee is it will never happen. That's the guarantee of quitting, that it will never happen, no way under the sun. The only way the possibility remains that it can happen is if you never give up, no matter what.
There's a Bible phrase that we could quote here that would be appropriate. It says, if you will be faithful over a few things, the small things, you will someday be ruler over many things and major things. That's it. That's the philosophy that counts. Surely life is reluctant to hand a fortune to someone who constantly messes up his paycheck. It's not the amount that counts. It's the plan and the faithful discipline of that plan that counts. The disciplines are those ingenious keys that unlock the door to the kind of person we really want to become. And becoming attracts all those treasures and values that most anyone would call the good life. Life in abundance, life in productivity, life in enterprise, life in influence, life in style. Now, to wind up this rather lengthy subject, let me close with this. Mr. Schultz's best instructions to me in those early years were to develop a new attitude about myself, and a new attitude about all the principles that it takes to make life unique. Develop a new attitude about taxes, about paying your bills, about the marketplace, opportunity, your chances, wealth, activity, prosperity, service, productivity. Let me give you a good example of my old attitude. I used to say, I hate to pay my taxes. Schultz said, well, you can live that way if you want to. That's one attitude. I was a bit perplexed. I thought it was the only attitude. How strange. I used to say, I hate to pay my bills. And he said, well, you can live that way if you want to. I thought it was the only way. I used to say, I hate to part with my money. He said, that's one choice for lifestyle and attitude. I thought, could it be that there is another way to feel about it? He said, what if you said, I love to pay my taxes, knowing it's the care and feeding of the goose that lays the golden egg? What if you said, I love to pay my bills, reduce my liabilities, and increase my asset? What if you said, I love to part with my money, put it into circulation, help build this dynamic society? Wouldn't that be a better way to live if you loved to instead of hated to? What an incredible way to look at it. I bought the idea and started the practice. I will admit that it took me a while to actually say truthfully, I love to. But when I did, I found a completely unique new way to live. To love to instead of hate to. Shope even taught me to pay my bills with enthusiasm. He said the next time you pay $100 on an account, put a note inside with your check that says, with great excitement I send you this $100. He said you won't believe what happens on the other end. They don't get many notes like that. But best of all, you won't believe what happens on your end. The new feeling of being in control and having a philosophy of life that brings joy instead of frustration. This whole new attitude will create for you a whole new world. Remember, it's something anyone can do. Mr. Shope got me to open my first savings account. He said, do you have a savings account? I said, I don't have enough money. And he reminded me, it's not the amount that counts, it's the plan. The important thing is to begin. Wealth is a plan, not an amount. He asked me if I had $10. I said, well, yes. He said, then open up your savings account and do it with your new attitude and enthusiasm.
Maybe that's why Henry David Thoreau asked in a moment of anguish, what if you live your whole life only to discover that it was wrong? That was wrong. God had so much more in mind for you. Maybe that's why he said, oh God, to reach the point of death, only to realize that you've never lived, only to realize that you've never scraped the surface of your potential. Everybody, let us say together, live full, die empty. The people in this room have decided to live full. The people in this room have decided to die empty. The people in this room have decided to live life on their terms and not to be a volunteer victim. When you say yes to this industry, you're saying yes for a bigger life. You're saying yes, I'm tired of playing small. You're saying yes, I'm ready to be empowered to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. You're saying yes to providing for yourself and your family. There's something that's in you that says, I'm not mentally fit to work for somebody for the rest of my life. You're saying yes to your life, yes to your dreams, yes to your unfolding future. Give yourselves a round of applause. Give yourself a round of applause. I didn't do this for years. I would go in the balcony of auditoriums and watch Jim Rohn and Dr. Dennis Waitley and Zig Ziglar, and my heart would beat so fast because I love helping people. How many of you love helping people? Raise your hand. I love helping people. And my heart said, I can do that. But then when I would leave there, and as I was walking to the car, my mental conditioning began to speak. And it would say, Les Brown, you can't do that. You don't have a college education. Les Brown, you can't do that. What makes you think that you have something to say that somebody would listen to you? Les Brown, you can't do that. What makes you think that you can speak for AT&T, Procter & Gamble, McDonald's Corporation, IBM? You've never worked for a major corporation. Les Brown, you can't do that. You were adopted. You don't even know who your parents are. How many of you ever thought about something you wanted to do? You felt it in your heart, and then your mind talked you out of it. Raise your hands. I convinced myself that I couldn't do it. I learned something from that experience. Whenever there's an argument between your heart and your mind, follow your heart. The things that the heart can understand and heal, the mind cannot relate to. Maybe that's why my favorite book says, lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. There are things that you feel, that you know in your heart of hearts, that's not logical, it's not practical, it's not realistic, but there's something in you that says, I can do this, I can do this. I'm facing defeats and disappointments and failures again and again and again. There's still something in you that says, I can do this. Operating out of a thinking when life knocks you down, try and land on your back, because when you can look up, you can get up. I can do this. How can you present and people say, oh yes, I'd like to be a part of that. Yes, they have the personality and they need it and they don't show up. End up being a babysitter. You have to be a counselor, a psychologist, a minister. They challenge, pray to Jesus and Yahweh and Melchizedek and Buddha. They'll get on your last nerve, have you chanting, Nomi Yoho Renge Kyo. It's interesting when you talk to people about securing their future, and you can't help them to become actively engaged in their own life.
And at the time he gets ready to come back home, how do I face the father I failed? How do I explain what happened to the thing, the living he worked his whole life for? He doesn't have any more life to work, April. He's old. I wasted his life with hookers and strippers, and I got nothing to show for it. Oscar, I got nothing, and he's still alive, and I gotta go home to this old man broke. It's one thing to blow your own money, it's another thing to blow mine. Tip lightly when you come to my house and you blew my money. That's my money. That was my life. That was my life saver. And you wasted it on what? And worse still, he has to go home smelling like a pig, smelling like something his daddy did not touch, smelling like something his daddy raised him not to eat. What do you do when your shame affects the people you love, affects the way they look at you, affects the way they handle you at the Thanksgiving dinner? And yes, they invited you, but you know the way they look at you, and you know what they think about you, and you have shame. And the power of the prodigal son story is that while the boy is rehearsing, he's so afraid of his daddy that he's rehearsing what he's gonna say to his father. That's a level of shame where you're trying to figure out what I will say. I am no more worthy. Listen to that. I am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me a hired servant. He's trying to get his message ready because he is full of shame. And what blows the story wide open is, wow, he is yet a great ways off. The father sees him coming and tears off the porch like he's... The young man had runs out to meet him. You know why he ran out to meet him? Because he still wanted it. In spite of the fact that he smelled like swine, in spite of the fact that he had spent his substance in riotous living, in spite of the fact that he had given his father's living to a horse. He said, you're a shameful disciple, but I still want you. You messed up, but I still want you. And I want you bad enough to put a clean robe on a dirty boy. Without a shower, without a bath. Bring him the robe and the ring, and let's celebrate and all. No shower, no bath, no cleansings, no ceremonies, no rituals, no communions, no church service, no prayer meeting, because he was still his son. What is Jesus trying to tell us about shame and God? That God still wants you. That he has a plan for your life that he already knows.